Guys come from South America, which isn't quite as cold as everybody expects. Everyone thinks of penguins and thinks of the Antarctic. Really cold, really icy, and very snowy. However, these guys love the warm. They come from Peru and Chile, so they like it nice and hot, and they like standing on the rocks and sunbathing quite a lot. If I could just ask you to put your legs over the fence, as I've already asked, sir. Thank you. Lovely. So they live on the cliffs and the rocks and the beaches of South America. Now, when we have this in mind, when we have penguins here at the zoo, we have to really look closely at where they live and how they behave, because we want to make sure the area is as natural as possible. So when we designed the enclosure here behind me, we had to think about how they live. So of course, as I said, they like to sunbathe on the rocks, so we needed some nice big rocks for that very purpose. But also, once it gets to the midday out in South America, it gets a bit too hot, so they need somewhere to shade. So we put lots of grasses in and some shelters as well. We also gave them lots of soil because they like to dig. Out in the wild, penguins can't dig into the rocks. But there's hundreds of them in colonies, and so the guano, the penguin poo, builds up quite thickly and forms a crust. The penguins will dig down into this to make their little nests and their burrows to lay their eggs in, because it's nice and cool and it's nice and safe. So we had to give them somewhere to dig. But also, finally, you'll notice we have a nice pebbly beach. Now, this is essential for our penguins. And you're probably wondering, well, why would a penguin need pebbles? Well, basically, if you keep penguins on the same surface for too long, they can get terrible problems with their feet. They can get what we call bumblefoot, which is terrible growths and lesions on their feet. So if we give them pebbles, it actually gives them a nice manicure and pedicure every day and keeps their feet in tip-top condition. So we do like to look after our penguins here at the zoo. Now, unfortunately, out in the wild in South America, they're not quite so well looked after, because their numbers are slowly getting smaller and smaller. 2 decades ago, there were over 1 million pairs of Humboldt penguins out in the wild, but today there are only around 4,000 left. And this is for a couple of reasons. The first one of these is their guano. As I mentioned, it builds upon the rocks and they dig down into it to lay their eggs. But the local humans have found that this guano makes fantastic fertilizer. So they take it all in, they harvest it and they put it on their crops. Now this is great for them, they get nice big crops all year round, but the penguins have then got nowhere to lay their eggs. And so that means less penguins each year can lay their eggs and have young, and less young. But also, you've seen today, our penguins absolutely love fish. Now, so do we. So this is a big problem, because not just the local people, but big companies are going into the sea around where the penguins live and fishing all the fish. So the penguins have got less food to hunt for. And it's actually taken them over 2 days, nearly 50 hours, to find food for themselves. So by the time they've gone out for 2 days, found the food and got back to their partners and their young, because they mate for life and both look after the chicks, usually they can't get the food back in time, and so there's less and less chicks again surviving. Now, it's not all doom and gloom, it sounds quite gloomy, doesn't it? But we're actually helping these little feathered friends here down here. Because here at the zoo, whenever you come to the zoo, you pay to get into the zoo, and that money doesn't just look after our animals here. It goes towards projects out in the wild, and we've actually got a project looking after the Humboldt penguins